Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of an IMG success story. My name is Amanda. I'm the Director of Communications here at Matcha Resident, and I'm very excited for the guest that we have today. I know she's going to have a lot to share with you all. I'm going to throw it over to you, Alexandra, to introduce yourself.
Well, thank you for having me today. Hi, everyone. My name is Alexandra Zara. I'm an international medical graduate from Venezuela. I applied to pathology this past cycle, and I got matched into my first option, which I'm very happy about. And I'm happy to be here today and share with you some tips and some insight about my journey and how did I get matched into my first choice.
Okay, awesome. Well, let's start and talk a little bit about, I want to talk about the beginning of your journey, like when you were first starting to match. How was it for you trying to get all of that information together, trying to figure out what steps you needed to do, and how did you kind of organize that so you weren't so overwhelmed?
So yeah, that's a great question. It was very stressing in the beginning. I remember being at this time of the year last year and just panicking because I was like, I'm running out of time. I don't have any letters of recommendations already, like talk about it. I don't have my personal statement done. I don't have any rotations, more rotations that I could add to my CV. So it was very overwhelming during that time. And I know there's a lot of people in that same exact position, and I understand that. I was there, but do not worry, don't panic. Everything will turn out fine. And trust me, September is around the corner, but you'll get the stuff done. So the first things that I was working on was basically gain more rotations in the US so that I could make more networking and connections, and that would help me, plan my letters of recommendations and which doctors I was going to ask for. So I was able to schedule a rotation in Miami, which was one of the experiences I had as an observer. And in the meantime, I was able to also join a hospital as a research volunteer in pathology. So those experiences let me ask for letters later in the year. And I don't know how I did it, but by September, I had everything put together. I obviously started looking at programs, the regions and geographic areas I was interested in applying. And I used Matcha Resident platform for that. And that was very helpful because I could see which programs were more friendly than others with IMGs. I could, based on what they said on the website, I was able to look for more on the Matcha Resident platform, and that helped a lot. So everything started coming up together through the months.
So your clinical experience, did you get that through connections? Like, were you emailing people asking around for clinical experience? No, I feel like that's like one of the best ways to do it. We get asked that all the time.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm very curious. So I started emailing everyone. I sent around 100 cold emails to doctors, programs, institutions, hospitals, and you get a lot of rejections. You get a lot of no's. You get, most people don't even answer to the email, but you only need one person or two person to say, hi, yes, I want to give you this opportunity. So I started reaching out. What I did is since I'm from Venezuela and I'm a Spanish speaker and I'm Latina, I basically try to target that type of doctor. So I started looking for doctors that had some Latino background or some that were from my home country. And I started emailing those doctors directly. Most of them were very open, were very sincere and honest, and they were willing to give me an opportunity. So I would suggest that if you're on that position that I was a year ago, just email everyone that you think they might give you an opportunity, because the worst that could happen is that they say no, but maybe they say yes. So if you are from me, from Venezuela or from Colombia or from another different country, India, maybe try to look for doctors that come from your same background, and they might be willing to help you because they went through the same process basically. So that's what I did, and it helped a lot. I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any connections. None of my family live in the US. So I had to start from scratch and sending emails and reaching out. I remember I encountered this doctor. She's from Cuba, but she's actually working and living in the US. And she was like, I don't know you, but I want to give you the opportunity because you just reach out and you showed up. That's the only thing I'm looking for. Someone that shows up and is willing to participate and is willing to work hard. Unfortunately, she was moving to a different state and she couldn't help me. But she was like, email me whenever you can. I want to know how your process goes. And if in any time we're in the same state, I will be happy to help you too. So that was very nice. So that's what they're looking for, initiative and people that are willing to, reach out and show up.
I love that. Was any of your experience like pathology specific? Because I know, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, so I try to, since I didn't have a lot of time left and I was running out of time, I decided that every experience that I have was gonna be focused into what I wanted. So the research I got like involved in was focused into pathology. So the observerships I completed were in pathology. So that's what I was looking for. Like, I have this amount of time and I have to make the most out of it. So I'm gonna go for what I'm interested, that is pathology, and just to make my application look more attractive.
Okay, cool. No, I like that. Okay, so you got all your experience together, you're working on your things, you're making your program selections. How many programs, if you don't mind sharing, did you end up applying to?
I ended up applying to, at the beginning it was 80, and then I sent 4 more applications out of like being stressed and freaking out. So I ended up sending 84 applications. And I always heard that you should apply to more than 100 programs. So I was very scared, but I sent those 84 applications because I was all in with those programs. Those were places I really wanted to train or I would see myself at. And I decided not to like send applications just to send it. Yeah. So that's why I stick to that number. But I know a lot of people that send even less and even more applications. And I don't think it would have been like, I think I'm happy with what I chose, and I wouldn't change a thing about it, but it was a big number still. Like 84 is a lot of money on applications.
Yeah, definitely. No, I know. I was just talking about that with another person I was interviewing yesterday, Carla. She said, I had a heart attack when I had to go pay for like all those applications.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. And for an international graduate, I mean, it's like I treated that match cycle as my only shot. So I was like, I'm gonna go with a big number. I'm gonna go poor after this, but it's what I want to do because I don't want to have to reapply next year. So
Okay, great. I love that. Okay, so then you sent out your 84 applications and you go into interview season. What was your mind like going into that? I know like right after you send the applications, I feel like you said, there's that frenzy, there's the anxiety of like, what can I do now? There are people that always reach out to us. They're like, I sent out my application. What can I do? It's like, well, you can send a letter of interest, but you never know. Did you send letter of interest?
So, well, yes. It's a little bit weird because I knew people that were getting interviews as soon as the eras open for programs. And I was like, it's only been a couple of hours. How is that even possible? But then I realized those were mostly US graduates. So I kind of relaxed a bit. And I remember I got my first interview invite a week after eras open. So I was starting to panic. I'm not going to lie, because I heard a lot of friends like, oh, I have this interview invite. I have this one. And I was like, okay, I have none. But then I remember when I got my first one, I remember exactly what I was doing, where I was, which program is. You never forget those things. And you just feel like, oh my God, I got an interview invite. And you scheduled your date right away. You don't have a plan yet, but you're like, okay, this is where I'm going to have my interview. And after that day, every other day or every 2 days, I started getting more invites. So that made me feel more confident. I was like, okay, it means that my application wasn't bad. I mean, it's somewhere out there and it wasn't wrong. I submitted properly. It is there. So that's good. And I realized some of the programs I was very interested in didn't reach out. So I was like, well, I'll send a letter of interest for a couple of programs. And that's what I did. I send it, I make it super specific to each program because I know a lot about the program already. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. For me, it didn't work. I'm gonna be totally honest. They didn't reach back out, but that was fine. I was like, okay, maybe it's not for me. It's not meant to be. But I got other invites, and that kind of like balanced it out. So it's something I wouldn't change. I would have done it the same way. I would have sent the same letters. It doesn't embarrass me to have sent those letters or anything. But it was a shot that I wanted to see if I would get the interview or not, but didn't happen, but that's okay.
It's always worth trying. It's definitely worth trying. I mean, you'd regret it if you didn't. So at least you tried it. So your interviews, were you like, did you get an interview coach? Were you nervous? Did you what were you thinking?
Well, I'm very good at public speaking in Spanish, but I had never done this before in English. And I've been studying English since I was like 7 years old, and I've been working on my English for the past 2 years before applications, but I've never done an interview process in English. So it was definitely a challenge for me. I decided to go with the basic preparation with Match Resident. And it was very helpful to watch all the videos and to read the insight and to have the artificial intelligence tool. That was very helpful. But in the end, I realized that the more I practice, the better I could get at it without sounding like a robot or something like that. Like they say, no, just be yourself. And that's totally true. But I feel that you cannot go into any interviews without a previous preparation. I mean, you know the most common questions and you can work with that and you can have your outline and you can change it along the way. But you have to practice. You have to see yourself in the mirror to see how you look, which faces you make. I'm very, as you can see, I do a lot of faces. So I was trying to keep myself keep it low because they're gonna feel that something's going on around me. So those things you learn along the way. And the first interview, you're gonna be like, oh, this is gonna be a mess. But actually, no. In pathology, people are very friendly. They are genuinely looking to get to know you. So it's more like a conversation than an actual interview. So there was some interviews that I got my classic behavioral questions. I think you cannot get around with them. You're always gonna get them. And but most of the interviews were very like a conversation. They were like, oh, tell me about this. I saw that you come from here. What about this? But nothing really oh, I didn't know what to say. No, you get more comfortable by talking about yourself and sounding professional. And I think that helped, but definitely it's practice. I remember I scheduled my first interview for a month after I got the interview invite. And I was like, okay, I have a month to prepare. And actually it was like a week that I used to prepare myself. I mean, it didn't took me too long, but I was getting nervous towards the day, but then it went fine.
Yeah, of course. It went well. I mean, you matched, so you did something right. You did something. So you went through interviews and you're coming out, you're on rank, you're at rank time. Were you sending out letters of intent? Did you know exactly how you wanted to rank? Were you kind of toying with the idea of switching around your top 3, or what were you thinking?
Well, this is a funny story. And it's actually, I think, one of the most memorable things around my journey is that in December, I had my last interviews in December. And I think I got my last interview invites around mid-November. So during December, I just had a couple of interviews because I was traveling to Spain to visit my family. And I was like, I'll just take this time off to relax, to visit my family that I haven't seen in 2 years. So that'll be fine. And I was thinking about how to rank in the programs during that time I was there. But when I came back in January, to my surprise, I got an interview invite mid-January. And I was like, wow, it's kind of late to get an interview invite. And especially because maybe someone canceled and maybe I was waitlisted, and that was probably happened. But the fun part of this story is that interview invite I got in mid-January was the program I matched into. That was actually my first choice. So I was happy with how my rank list looked when I came back in the beginning of January. But when I got this interview invite, I was like, this is my number 1. I didn't even have the interview and I knew I was ranking them first. So I was like, thank God I didn't start sending a letter of intent to my number 1 choice back then, because I was planning to only send 1 email with my top 1. Yeah. And thank God I didn't do it before that, because when I received the interview invite, they were like, are you willing to get the invite? I was like, yes. I mean, this has been my dream program. I was waiting for this, but I thought it was, not gonna happen because time passed and I never received the invite. But it happened
Maybe did you send them a letter of interest?
No, I didn't.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Because I was waiting. I was like, they're very IMG.
You were hoping.
I was waiting. And then I sent the letters of intent early in November. So when I finished having all my interview invites, I was like, I'm fine with what I got. I'm gonna just work with that. And when I got that invitation, I was like, this cannot be happening. I mean, this is just crazy. And I got into the interview, but before the interview, I was so nervous. I was like, are they gonna like me? You know, they're interviewing me on their last day of interviews. Am I gonna be good enough? Would they rank someone that they interview on the last day so highly? Like, I had all these questions around me, and I was like, I'm gonna give my best. And the good thing, it was my last interview, so I had all the experience from the past interviews. I was coming from vacation with my family, so
you were glowing, you were glowing, you were happy.
Exactly, but I didn't know what to expect. At the same time, I was so nervous because I was like, this is what I want to go. This is the program I'm going to rank first. Let's see how it goes. And I think it went well because I sent a letter of interest, I think 3 days after the interview, because my interview was on the last week of January, and I wanted to send the letter of interest before the rank order list opened. That was February 1st. So I literally had my interview January 25, and then I sent the letter on January 28th. Something crazy. They must have said like, oh, maybe they thought I didn't have any other option. I don't know. Yeah. Like, this girl is really desperate. Maybe that's what they thought. But like, I was very honest, and I was like, I knew I wanted to be part of your program from the moment I applied to. And when I got the interview, it was just like a dream. So yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. And that's all I said, that you're gonna be my top number one. And everything worked out. So I'm very happy.
I love that. I'm so happy for you. That is a good little story.
So yeah, you definitely need one interview to match. I mean, if I would have done the whole season with any interviews and just got that one in January, I think I would have matched. But like, you only need one. It's so simple that you only need one. I ranked all these programs, and in the end, it just kept on my number one, you know? So that was a nice thing.
I love that. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
So now I guess, like, looking back and now moving forward, or before we move into what you're excited for, let's talk, I guess, what would you tell, I mean, we've covered a lot, but that we haven't already said, what would you tell somebody going through the application process or starting the application process right now? Like, how would you tell them to frame their state of mind and organize their daily stuff?
Well, I would suggest that the first thing that I think I would have done, or I should do this time if I were applying again, is to get my schedule together and see the timelines and the deadlines, to see when things are due or when should I have my things together. So I started I do not recommend this. I started working on my personal statement very late, like around August, and it was fine, but I would suggest that you start working on it before. Like, I had a sketch done like in May, but it was it was a very basic sketch, like a draft I had, not even close to what I ended up uploading on my ears. Yeah. So I would suggest that you start working on those things that depend on you early in the season, and also to ask for the letters of recommendation in advance. Like, I know ERAS opens on June or July. So make sure you ask for your letters of recommendations in advance, like around those days or early September, because once the doctors upload the letters, they take some time to process the letters and release them. It can take up to 12 business days. So it's really annoying when you are on a deadline and you're like, I want the letter to be released, and it's still not released by the application. So I would suggest that you consider those, time frames, and make sure to request your letters of recommendations in advance, to not be last minute doing everything. And when ERAS open and you get your token and you enroll on my ERAS, start working on the application and filling it out, and get familiar with the website and the platform, because it can be very annoying at the beginning and then it gets better. But that's what I started doing everything September. So I would want to do that before. I would recommend that people.
Yeah, definitely. I would say June is a good time to start.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't know why I waited so long. I was trying to convince myself that maybe I was not applying this year. Like, maybe you are not going to get everything together to apply this year, but at the end, everything worked out. But I would recommend that if you're sure you're applying this year, just start working on it as early as you can, and it'll go fine. And also looking for the programs that you are more interested in, and what are the requirements, if they have any particular requirements for them. Like, some of them require that all the letters come from a pathologist, for example, or one of them should be from a pathologist and all of that. I'm a visa requiring IMG, so I had to look about the visa too, like do they offer J visa, H visa? So that's another thing that you have to take into consideration for sure.
Okay, great. I like that. That was good advice. I like that advice because you get a lot of like stay calm and stuff, but that's true. I mean, ERIS is a confusing website. It's a confusing application. There's a lot that go into it. Familiarize yourself, and also feel free to call us. You can call Match Your Resident, residency experts, whatever. We are very familiar with this application.
Exactly. They do it every year. I just did it 1 year, you know?
Well, so often. Okay, great. So now moving forward, you're going to your dream program. What are you looking most forward to? And like, what are you taking with yourself that you learned through med school, through the application process? Like, how are you taking that into your residency?
So it's funny because I lived in New York for a year, and I used to live very close to the program I matched into, to the hospital I'm gonna go for the next 4 years. So when I lived in New York, I made my life around that area. So I'm looking forward to going back and meeting my friends that I made in the city. And I like to rock climb during my free time. So the climbing gym I used to go, you too?
Oh, yeah.
So my first gym, the gym I started rock climbing, is like 2 blocks away from the hospital. So I'm looking forward to learning a lot of things in residency, but also going back to the place that received me a year ago for when I started, you know, getting familiar with the US. And just, I would have never thought when I lived there that I would have ended up in that hospital that I used to see every day while walking to the gym. So life is just crazy, and life just surprises you in such many ways. But that was very exciting. And well, obviously during interview process, you meet a lot of people. Fun fact, I also met one of my core residents during the interview day that I had at the program I matched. So you start meeting a lot of people, you see different faces, and you see all these amazing applicants, and you're like, wow, it's just crazy that I'm right here with these people that are just insane. But then you realize that you have also a lot of potential, and that's the nice part about the process, that you learn from all these people, they learn from you. And you know, I was looking for diversity, and I think my program is giving me all the diversity I want, just because in the staff there's a lot of different people, different backgrounds, and in the patient, like the cases are well, you know that the people in New York are very diverse.
Yeah, very diverse. We have a few ambassadors there too, and I'll be coming there for an event, so we'll meet up. You'll meet everybody.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, you know where to find me now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to all of that, to putting like a real face, an in-person face to all these people I met through the residency interview process with them. And I already bought some pathology books to start reading, so I'm looking forward to starting learning and all these new skills, and putting in practice everything I've learned through my life and through med school, because residency, I think, is like it brings together everything that you learn so far, not only in the medical aspect, but also in the personal. Like, you have to know yourself very well to see how you're going to manage your time, how you're going to get time to do this and that. So it's going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah, well, I'm excited for you. I think you're going to do well. It seems like you're very like, you know how to take care of yourself, you know yourself, and you want to take care of others, and you're passionate about that. And I feel like that's really what matters at the end of the day.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you for joining us today. It's been so much fun. And like I said, we'll definitely be doing more stuff in the future. We'll be in New York, and I'll let you know when I'm in New York. We'll get something fun together.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm happy to collaborate with Match Your Resident and to be part of this team, and to hopefully my advice and my insight and my experience will help other people that went through this. You can also follow me on Instagram. I'm not very active on my posts as Match Your Resident is, but I'm trying really hard, and you can always reach out to my DMs, and I love to help people, and I love to give my advice. I wouldn't say I'm very experienced in this field, but whatever I know, I want to share it with the rest of the people, because I was in that position not so long ago, and I wish someone had done that for me. So that's why my DMs are always open. So feel free to contact me, and thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure, always a pleasure for me.
And your handle is, isn't it, at path_ALE_GY, path ALG, right?
Like my Alexandra just shorted to Alex. It's like pathology, but you know, pathology, just a funny word.
I like that. That's a good one. That's good. We'll put that on we'll put her handle on there as well. So anyone can feel free to reach out to her, and you can always reach out to us as well. And there will be more of this coming to you in the future. Thank you everybody for joining us today. And I hope that you have a great day.
Thank you.